There is a moment when the right gesture feels harder than doing nothing. The funeral line forms before grief has found words. The apology has a shape before pride has fully loosened. A family name crosses the table, carrying love, duty, resentment, and memory in the same small sound. Part of the gesture is real, part of it feels borrowed. That suspicion can feel honest. If a word is learned, repeated, and expected, maybe it is less true than a feeling that rises on its own. Confucius enters at exactly this difficult point. He is not simply defending old ceremonies. He is asking whether the inner life becomes trustworthy, partly through practiced outer form. So tonight we are not asking whether every inherited ritual deserves loyalty. We are asking why forms that can become hollow might still matter for care, grief, trust, and humane relation. The question is not whether a gesture proves sincerity. It is whether sincerity sometimes needs a gesture before it can become steady. By the end of tonight, I want to leave you with a calmer way to judge inherited gestures without calling them either sacred or fake too quickly. If you enjoy thinking through questions like this with me, subscribing to the channel helps others find them too. Sharing the video helps even more. Let's begin. The room is full of grief, and everyone seems to know where to stand. Voices lower, hands fold. Someone says the sentence people say when loss has made ordinary speech too small. Nothing about it is original. The words have been used before. The stillness has been used before. The form arrives before feeling knows what to do with itself. That is the strange thing about ritual. It often meets us before we are ready. A funeral does not wait until grief is articulate. An apology does not wait until pride has disappeared. A greeting does not wait until affection has become pure. Human life keeps placing people in moments where something is required, and the heart is not always prepared enough to invent the right response from nothing. The modern instinct is to be suspicious of that. There are good reasons. Manners can hide contempt. Politeness can become a weapon. Family words can be used to demand silence. A public smile can cover private resentment. The fear is not foolish. A gesture can be false, but the shortcut is too simple. If every learned gesture is false, then most of human relation begins to look like fraud. Thanks, greetings, patience, respect for the dead, a place kept at the table, a gentler tone when anger wants to win. None of these things begins as pure invention. They are forms we receive before we decide what to do with them. Confucius matters here because he refuses to make sincerity and form into enemies. He does not treat ritual as decoration around a finished moral self. He treats it as one of the ways a person becomes capable of meeting others. The old word is li, often translated as ritual propriety, rites, or proper form. But if we hear only temple ceremony or stiff etiquette, we miss the force of it. Li includes the patterned conduct by which people greet, mourn, serve, speak, show restraint, honor parents, and receive guests. That sounds broad because the problem is broad. Ritual is not only what happens in a shrine, it appears when someone decides whether to interrupt. It appears in a room where another person is hurting. It appears in names such as mother, father, friend, teacher, guest, and host. Each word brings a shape with it. Each gesture tells another person what kind of relation they are entering. The suspicion remains. If the shape is already there, where is honesty? Confucius would ask another question first. What is the shape doing to the person who inhabits it? If the repeated gesture trains lying, flattery, submission, and hidden cruelty, then the form is corrupt. But if the gesture trains attention, restraint, patience, and care, then the fact that it is learned does not make it false. It may be learned because human beings need help becoming reliable. Think of an apology. Waiting for perfect remorse can mean waiting too long. Pride is slow. Shame is defensive. Anger explains itself beautifully. The form of apology can bring a person to a place feeling has not yet reached. The words say, "I was wrong." They name the harm. They refuse excuses. At first they may feel ahead of the heart, but because they are spoken, the speaker has to stand inside them. The gesture can expose the heart that is missing. It can also begin to train it. That is not magic. Some apologies are theatre. Some are meant only to end discomfort. Confucius is not useful if he becomes a defender of any outer act. His point is harder. The outer act is neither automatically fake nor automatically sincere. It has to be judged by what it forms in the person and what it makes possible between people. This is why ritual feels so awkward at the edges of life. It carries more than feeling can carry alone. At a funeral, grief may be numb. The person who arrives to comfort may not know what to say. The ceremony gives both people a path through a moment that private spontaneity cannot bear. The words may be old because grief is older than the person speaking. The form is not there to replace sorrow. It is there because sorrow often cannot organize itself. The same is true at a family table. A name can comfort and it can hurt. Father, mother, brother, aunt, son. It can name a responsibility fulfilled or one avoided. It can hold affection and anger in the same syllable. A modern answer might say, throw the name away if it no longer feels authentic. Sometimes that may be necessary. But Confucius wants us to notice why names and gestures mattered in the first place. They make responsibility visible. They remind the person who speaks and the person who hears that this relation is not merely private preference. That is both the power and the danger. Without shared forms, every difficult encounter has to be improvised. That sounds free until the moment arrives. Someone dies. A guest enters. Anger fills the room. Gratitude should be shown. A child needs care. An elder needs reverence. A stranger needs to know whether the room is safe. Pure spontaneity is not always more truthful. Sometimes it is simply the impulse that happens to be strongest. Confucius does not begin from a fantasy that people are naturally graceful. He begins from the ordinary fact that we are clumsy in relation. We want to be good, but speech runs ahead of care. We want to care, but attention narrows around the self. We want to be sincere, but sincerity is mixed with pride, fear, fatigue, and self-protection. Ritual is one answer to that clumsiness. It gives the body and speech a discipline before the heart can be trusted to improvise. Still, the objection cannot be dismissed. Some forms are masks. Some customs train fear. Some roles reward hypocrisy. Some ceremonies continue after reverence has gone. If ritual matters, it matters under a condition. It must be answerable to the humanness it is supposed to serve. The old Confucian word for that humanness is ren. It is often translated as humanity, benevolence, or humanness, but it is not mere niceness. It is the quality of becoming properly human in relation to others. Lai gives relation a practiced form. Ren gives the form its living moral point. If either is missing, something goes wrong. Feeling without form may remain private and unreliable. Form without humane feeling may become an empty stage. So the gesture that feels false may be false, or it may be early. It may be the beginning of sincerity, not the enemy of it. It may be asking the self to grow into what the moment deserves. That is why Confucius cannot be reduced to etiquette. He is asking how a human being becomes trustworthy when feeling alone is too unstable to carry the work of relation. The bow is not the whole of virtue. The words are not the whole of sorrow. The name is not the whole of duty. But without some form, the heart may never learn where to arrive. We often imagine ritual as something stable, a ceremony, a rule, a tradition, a repeated order of gestures. But Confucius is not speaking from a world where form is simple and secure. He is remembered as a teacher living amid inherited forms whose authority had begun to crack. Titles still existed, ceremonies still existed, rank still existed, but the confidence behind them was no longer whole. That matters because it changes the picture. Confucius is not useful as a museum figure who simply liked old things. He is more interesting than that. He is thinking about what happens when a society still has the language of order, but no longer reliably has the conduct that makes order believable. You know a smaller version of that. A workplace can keep titles while trust disappears. A family can keep names while care has become uneven. A public institution can keep ceremonies while people suspect the ceremony protects the people at the top. The form remains, but the relation it is meant to carry has weakened. At that point, the easy answer is to say the form was always a costume. Confucius does not take that easy answer. He sees the corruption of form, but he also sees the danger of losing form altogether. If a name no longer names a responsibility, people do not know how to act toward one another. If a ceremony no longer carries reverence, the ceremony becomes hollow. But if the ceremony disappears, the reverence may not automatically survive in a freer and purer state. Something may be lost with it. The background, often called the late Zhou world, was marked by political disorder, rivalry among states, and strain in inherited social roles. We do not need to turn that into a lecture. The important point is human. Confucius is watching a world where the outward grammar of relation continues, while the inward trust is damaged. He asks whether the grammar can be repaired. That is why the analects so often sounds like brief scenes instead of a system. Someone asks about humanness. Someone asks about serving a ruler. Someone asks about family conduct. Someone questions a ritual. Someone mistakes propriety for flattery. Confucius answers in short replies, corrections, rebukes, and images. The text does not give us a smooth doctrine. It gives us a teacher returning again and again to the same hard link. Form, feeling, role, speech, and trust belong together. If you have ever inherited a custom after belief has weakened, you can feel the difficulty. You do not want to pretend. You do not want to perform reverence where reverence is gone. But you may also sense that simply dropping the custom leaves a blank space. The meal no longer gathers people. The funeral no longer helps grief. The greeting no longer acknowledges respect. The name no longer calls anyone to responsibility. The old form can be oppressive, but the absence of form can be lonely and thin. Confucius thinks ritual is a learned moral language. That phrase can sound abstract, so bring it close. A language is not only a collection of sounds, it is a shared way of making meaning. If you speak a language alone, it does not do much. It matters because other people can hear you, answer you, correct you, and trust what certain words usually mean. Ritual works like that in conduct. It tells a person how to enter, how to wait, how to receive, how to mourn, how to speak, when to be silent, how to show that another person is not being treated as an object. Good intention by itself is not enough. You can care and still arrive badly. You can mean respect and speak in a way that wounds. You can love someone and still be careless with the form through which love has to be received. Confucian Li does not say the form is more important than the heart. It says the heart needs a language if it is going to become shareable. That is why the contrast between inner sincerity and outer performance can mislead us. Inner sincerity matters. Without it, the form decays. But if sincerity remains invisible, untrained, and privately defined, other people are left to live with whatever comes out of us. The self may feel authentic while still being rough, impatient, intrusive, or unreliable. Ritual is one way the self learns that its private state is not the whole moral world. This is not a call to obey every inherited pattern. A shared language can become a language of domination. People can be trained to lower their eyes when they should speak. They can be taught to call abuse duty. They can be told that politeness is more important than truth. Confucius himself values hierarchy in ways that modern people cannot simply accept. If we ignore that, the argument becomes dishonest. But if we only reject, we miss the other side. A form can teach care. A form can also teach fear. The question is not whether form exists, it always does. The question is who is being formed, toward what, and at whose expense. This is where Confucius has to be treated as an argument source, not as a dispenser of calming quotes. The analects is not valuable here because it gives us decorative ancient lines. It is valuable because it keeps placing pressure on the same contradiction. Ritual without humanness fails. Humanness without disciplined form may remain unstable. Roles can orient responsibility. Roles can also harden into masks. Trust is more basic than force, but trust can also be demanded by those who have not earned it. If the pattern of ordinary life has broken, Confucius does not simply tell us to keep acting as though nothing happened. He asks what would have to be restored for the form to breathe again. That is a more demanding question than nostalgia. Nostalgia says the past was better. Confucius, at his best, asks whether the past contains forms through which human beings learned reverence, restraint, and responsibility, and whether those forms can still be made honest. He does not let us assume that old means good. He also does not let us assume that new means sincere. This is why broken forms matter. A broken form is not only a failed ceremony, it is a damaged relation. When the title father no longer carries care, the name is broken. When the greeting no longer carries respect, the gesture is broken. When mourning no longer carries sorrow, the rite is broken. When public office no longer carries responsibility, the role is broken. The form exposes the relation it was supposed to hold. That is uncomfortable because it means the repair cannot be cosmetic. You cannot fix ritual by making it more impressive. You cannot fix a name by demanding that people say it louder. You cannot fix a family role by insisting on obedience. The form has to be rejoined to the humane responsibility that gave it meaning. Confucius keeps returning us there. He is not asking us to admire ceremony from a distance. He is asking what kind of person a form trains, what kind of relation it makes possible, and what is lost when shared conduct is either corrupted or abandoned. The past is not pure. It is not useless either. It is an inheritance under judgment. There is another reason this historical setting matters. Broken forms are not only ancient, they are familiar wherever speech keeps its official names after trust has gone. A person can still be called honorable while acting without honor. A family can still gather while no one believes the gathering is safe. Confucius is useful because he does not let the brokenness disappear into cynicism. He treats it as a demand for repair. You have seen a gesture performed with no heart in it. The words were correct. The timing was correct. The face may even have been composed. But something in the room knew. Respect was being acted, not given. Sorrow was being displayed, not felt. Courtesy was being used to keep distance. The ceremony was intact, and still it felt morally dead. This is the strongest objection to ritual. It is also one Confucius already knows. In the Analects, there is a sharp saying, if a person is without humanness, what has that person to do with ritual? What has that person to do with music? The force is plain. Ritual does not justify itself. A beautiful form in the hands of an inhumane person is not made good by being beautiful. The bow is not enough. The rite is not enough. The music is not enough. That matters because it prevents a lazy defense of tradition. Confucius is not saying that correctness can replace character. He is not saying that if the steps are done properly, the moral work is complete. He is asking what lives inside the form. Without ren, without humane relation, ritual becomes a shell. This is why modern suspicion should not be brushed aside. When you see a powerful person perform humility while refusing accountability, the suspicion is reasonable. When a family demands respectful words from a child while failing to show care, the suspicion is reasonable. When a ceremony asks everyone to praise what no one trusts, the suspicion is reasonable. Ritual can become a mask for moral emptiness. Confucius would not be surprised by that. His own standard is severe. The form must be animated by humanness, reverence, sorrow, reciprocity, and truthfulness. Otherwise, it may still look like ritual from the outside, but it has lost the thing that made it worth doing. A second passage makes this even clearer. Lin Fang asks about the root of ritual. Confucius answers in a way that cuts against showy formalism. In ritual, he prefers sparingness to extravagance. In mourning, he prefers real sorrow to minute display. The point is not that details never matter. The point is that the root matters more than the ornament. A small funeral with real grief is closer to the moral center than an elaborate rite that turns sorrow into social performance. You can feel that difference without needing any ancient vocabulary. There are gatherings where grief is given room, and there are gatherings where grief is managed for appearance. There are words spoken because someone is present to loss, and words spoken because one must get through the schedule. There are families that mourn together, and families that use mourning to display rank, resentment, or old grievances. Confucius does not ask whether the funeral was impressive. He asks whether sorrow was there. That is why ritual is both necessary and dangerous. A grieving person often needs form. Grief makes people clumsy. It empties the mind. It makes speech difficult. It can make the body feel strange. A rite gives the bereaved something to do when private feeling is too large to organize. But the same form can betray grief if it becomes display. The ceremony can protect sorrow, or it can replace sorrow with fuss. This distinction is essential. Confucius does not defend performance against sincerity. He judges performance by the sincerity, reverence, and humane attention it carries. He knows that outer exactness can become morally useless. In another passage, he asks what can be thought of ceremonies without reverence, or mourning without sorrow. The implication is almost unbearable. If the form has lost reverence and sorrow, there may be nothing left to contemplate. So the problem is not invented by modern authenticity. The problem lives inside the tradition itself. Empty ritual is a Confucian failure before it is a modern complaint. But the argument does not stop there. If empty ritual is a failure, what exactly has failed? The modern answer often says the form failed because form is false. Confucius says the form failed because the humanness that should animate it is absent. That is a different diagnosis. It means the cure is not always to abolish the form. Sometimes the cure is to recover the root. Imagine a person who says thank you with no gratitude. The words are empty, but would the answer be to abolish gratitude language altogether? Probably not. The better answer is to ask why gratitude has become absent, what the words are meant to train, and whether the repeated act might still call the person back toward acknowledgement. The word can be hollow. It can also be a reminder that the self has received something and should not move through life as if nothing is owed. The same is true of mourning. A rite without sorrow is hollow, but a sorrow without rite can be formless, isolated, and unsupported. Confucius is not choosing hollow ceremony over real feeling. He is trying to keep feeling and form from separating so far that each loses what the other can give. This makes his view harder than both easy options. The first easy option says, keep the form because tradition says so. The second says, discard the form because sincerity is all that matters. Confucius presses from both sides. He tells the traditionalist that ritual without humanness is empty. He tells the modern skeptic that feeling without practiced form may not become reliable relation. That is why Ren and Li have to be held together. Ren is the humane quality that makes a person truly available to others. Li is the trained pattern through which that quality appears, learns restraint, and becomes shareable. If Li loses Ren, it becomes dead correctness. If Ren refuses Li entirely, it risks becoming a private feeling that does not know how to act. You can see this in ordinary conflict. Someone may feel sorry, but if they will not speak the words, make the repair, return what was taken, or sit through the discomfort, the feeling remains too private. Another person may speak the words perfectly and feel nothing. Neither is whole. The form needs the heart. The heart needs a way to become accountable. Confucius is severe because human beings are good at hiding from both demands. We use form to avoid feeling. We use claims of feeling to avoid form. We say, I meant well, when we behaved carelessly. We say, I did everything required, when we withheld respect. We protect ourselves on whichever side is easier. Ritual with no heart lets us be correct without becoming humane. Sincerity with no form lets us feel honest without becoming reliable. The Confucian challenge is to accept neither escape. So when ceremony feels dead, the right response is not automatic reverence. Something may truly be wrong. Ask what has gone missing. Is it sorrow? Is it care? Is it reciprocity? Is it trust? Is it the courage to tell the truth? Is it the responsibility attached to a name? The emptiness has a content. It is not enough to say the ceremony is hollow. We have to ask what hollowed it out. Only then can the argument continue. Confucius is not more naive than the skeptic. He is sometimes more demanding. He does not ask whether the outer form was preserved. He asks whether the form still carries the humane life it was meant to train. The quiet rite may be truer than the grand one. The small gesture may be alive. The impressive ceremony may be empty. The bow is not enough, but neither is the feeling that never learns how to bow. This is why the Analects should not be read as a calm book of maxims. It is full of correction because the students and officials around Confucius keep mistaking the sign for the reality, or the reality for something that can survive without signs. Each reply presses conduct back toward formation. The old master is not decorating life with ceremony. He is asking whether damaged people can become dependable through practiced relation. You may want sincerity to arrive first. Most of us do. It would be cleaner if the heart became generous, and then the gesture followed. It would be cleaner if apology came only after full remorse, gratitude only after full gratitude, respect only after settled reverence, grief only after sorrow had found its honest words. Life does not usually wait for that order. Confucius gives us a reversal that can feel uncomfortable. When Yan Yuan asks about Ren, Confucius answers by speaking of restraining the self and returning to ritual propriety. Then he gives a discipline of perception and action. Do not look, listen, speak, or move contrary to ritual. The language can sound strict, even severe, but the underlying claim is plain. Humanness is not only a feeling hidden inside, it is trained in what the eyes attend to, what the ears receive, what the mouth says, and what the body does. That does not mean the self is crushed into obedience. It means the self is not automatically wise. Desire looks where it wants. Anger listens for insult. Pride speaks before it understands. Fear moves away from responsibility. If we call all of that authenticity, we make sincerity too easy. Confucius asks whether the self needs forms that teach it how to see and move in relation. This is especially hard for a modern ear because we often imagine the inner life as the true place and the outer act as the secondary place. First I feel, then I express. First I become sincere, then I act sincerely. Confucius is not denying inner life. He is asking whether the inner life is partly made through repeated action. If you repeatedly speak with care, wait before interrupting, receive others seriously, mourn with attention, and restrain the impulse to dominate the room, those acts do not only display a self, they educate one. There is a passage in the Analects that contrasts rule by law and punishment with rule by virtue and ritual. If people are led by punishments, they may avoid penalties without developing shame. If they are led by virtue and ritual, they may develop a sense of shame and become good. We should be careful with that word shame. It is not humiliation for its own sake. It is the inward recognition that some conduct is beneath the relation, beneath the role, beneath the person one is trying to become. Law can control behavior from outside. Ritual aims at formation. It teaches a person to feel the weight of the act before punishment arrives. It trains the body and speech until the person does not only ask, "What can I get away with?" They begin to feel what the situation calls for. You know the difference. A person can follow a rule while resenting every second of it. They can avoid punishment while learning nothing. They can say, "Technically I did nothing wrong," and still leave everyone around them colder. Confucius is interested in a different kind of moral life, one where the person is shaped to perceive what is fitting before coercion is needed. This is why sincerity needs shape. An unshaped feeling may be real, but it may not yet be trustworthy. Love can be possessive. Anger can feel righteous while becoming cruel. Grief can become self-absorbed. Honesty can become an excuse for harshness. Compassion can become intrusive. The fact that something is felt strongly does not mean it has learned how to meet another person. Ritual form slows feeling down. It says, "Do not speak yet. Look properly, listen properly. Receive the other as more than an obstacle. Let the moment instruct you before you fill it with yourself." That is not the death of sincerity. It may be sincerity learning manners in the deepest sense, not manners as politeness, but manners as the form through which another person can survive your sincerity. Think about anger. You may be honestly angry. The feeling is real, but if you let the feeling decide everything, it may speak too much, too loudly, too soon. A ritualized form of conflict, even a simple one, can protect the relation. Sit down, let the other person finish. Name the harm without insult. Do not use family history as a weapon. Keep your body from threatening. These are forms. They may feel artificial in the moment, but they can keep honesty from becoming violence. Confucius would not use that modern example, but the logic fits his concern. The self must be trained in how to look, listen, speak, and move. Sincerity is not less sincere because it has learned restraint. It may become more truthful because it has stopped confusing impulse with moral clarity. There is still danger here. Forms can train suppression instead of restraint. A child can be taught never to speak because ritualized respect has become fear. A worker can be taught to smile at injustice because professionalism has replaced truth. A citizen can be taught to praise power because public ceremony has become self-protection. Confucius gives us a discipline of form, but we have to test what the form is training. That is the crucial boundary. A form is not good because it disciplines. It is good only if the discipline serves humane relation. It should make a person more able to care, more able to restrain cruelty, more able to receive others, more able to carry grief, more able to honor responsibility. If it only makes a person easier to control, it has betrayed the Confucian root. This brings us back to the apology. Suppose you do not yet feel fully sorry. The form of apology can be dishonest if you use it to escape consequence, but it can be honest in another way if you use it to enter responsibility before your pride has caught up. You may begin with the words. The words place you under a demand. They ask your heart to follow. The same can happen with gratitude. You may not feel grateful because fatigue has made you dull, but when you stop, look at the person and say thank you with care. The form can wake perception. It can remind you that something was given. It can train you out of the fantasy that you move through the world alone. This is why Confucius does not ask for spontaneous authenticity as the highest moral proof. Spontaneity may show what is already formed. If the person has been trained well, spontaneous action may become graceful. But before that, spontaneity often reveals the untrained self. Impatient, distracted, vain, frightened, hungry for advantage, quick to defend its own image. Ritual is not the enemy of freedom. It is one path by which freedom becomes less ruled by accident. A musician practices scales until the hand can move freely. A grieving person follows a rite until sorrow can be held. A child learns greeting before they understand respect. A friend learns how to apologize before apology feels natural. Practice does not make the act fake. Practice may make the act possible. Confucius is asking us to distrust the lazy version of authenticity, the one that says the first impulse is the real one. The first impulse may be real. It may also be shallow. A deeper sincerity may need repetition, correction, humility, and form. So the question is no longer whether a learned gesture can be sincere. It is whether the gesture trains the person toward the truth of the relation. Does it make you more attentive? Does it restrain what would harm? Does it help you carry what feeling alone cannot carry? Does it bring your heart into contact with what the moment deserves? If it does, then sincerity did not arrive before the form. It grew inside it. The point can be put even closer. If you have ever entered a room after a loss, you know that your own goodness may not tell you enough. You may care deeply and still say the wrong thing. You may want to comfort and still become awkward. A mourning form spares people from inventing tenderness under pressure. It gives care a humble route when eloquence would only get in the way. There are moments when feeling is too large to guide itself. Grief is one of them. You may imagine that sorrow should be the most authentic of feelings, and in one sense it is. It comes without permission. It empties ordinary speech. It changes the room. Yet, when someone dies, grief often makes people unable to act. They do not know where to stand, what to say, when to speak, how long to stay. what to do with their hands. That is why mourning rituals matter in the Analects. Confucius does not treat them as decorative customs around death. He treats them as forms that carry sorrow, memory, reverence, and presence. But he also refuses to let the form replace the sorrow. This double demand is important. Mourning without form can become lost. Mourning without sorrow becomes false. In the passage about Lin Fang, Confucius prefers real sorrow in mourning over elaborate observance. That one line protects the whole argument from becoming ceremonial fuss. If a family spends everything on display and no one is present to loss, the rite has failed. If a public ceremony turns death into reputation management, the rite has failed. If mourning becomes a chance to perform status, the rite has failed. But the opposite failure is also real. When a death is treated as a purely private event, each person is left to invent grief alone. Some will withdraw, some will talk too much, some will rush back into work because there is no shared form telling them that the loss deserves time. Some will not know how to approach the bereaved. Without a rite, sorrow may become isolated, not more sincere. Confucius wants sorrow to have a body, not because the body replaces the heart, but because the heart needs somewhere to go. One passage says sacrifices are performed as if the ancestors or spirits were present. The phrase "as if" can sound strange. It does not require us to settle every question about belief. It points to attention. To sacrifice as if the dead are present is to refuse casualness. It is to let memory arrange the room. It is to behave in such a way that absence is not treated as nothing. You know this even outside formal religion. A place may be set for someone who is gone. A name may be spoken carefully. A photograph may be touched before it is moved. A family may keep a small practice that would look irrational to someone outside the grief. The gesture does not bring the dead back, it does something else. It teaches the living not to treat the absent as erased. That is a profound human need, but we should say it plainly. Memory weakens if it never takes form. Love for the dead can become vague if it is never practiced. Sorrow can become private pain with no shared path. Ritual gives grief a repeatable shape, so that people who do not know what to do can still do something that honors the loss. At the same time, Confucius is not satisfied with mechanical presence. If you are not personally present to the rite, he suggests, it is as if you did not sacrifice. That is a severe judgment. The body can be there while the attention is absent. The hands can complete the gesture while the mind is elsewhere. The rite needs presence because the point is not the external object alone. The point is the reorientation of the person doing it. This helps us understand why mourning rituals can feel both comforting and unbearable. They ask you to show up to what hurts. They do not let grief remain only a mood inside you. They bring it into words, clothing, food, silence, gathering, posture, sequence. You may not feel ready. The form may feel too old, too public, too heavy. But it can also keep grief from dissolving into chaos. A person grieving alone may think, I do not know how to do this. Ritual answers, no one knows how to do this from nothing. Others have stood here. Others have needed a path. Walk this for a while. That does not make every inherited mourning form good. Some rituals burden the grieving with expenses they cannot bear. Some demand displays of sorrow that become humiliating. Some enforce family hierarchies at the very moment people are most vulnerable. Some silence grief that does not fit the approved shape. A Confucian defense of mourning form has to face that. The rite must serve sorrow, not consume it. Analects 3.4 helps us hold the line. Better sorrow than display, better the root than excess. Better a spare form that carries truth than a splendid form that forgets why people gathered. There is also a family dimension. Confucius often links filial conduct with serving parents in life, burying them and sacrificing to them according to propriety after death. To a modern ear, that can sound like rule-bound family obligation. It can also feel painful because parents are not abstractions. Some cared well, some failed, some harmed, Some were loved and resented at once. Mourning a parent may require a form strong enough to hold complexity. A shallow reading would say, Confucius wants children to obey and honor parents no matter what. That is too simple for our purposes. The better question is what reverence asks when a relation is real but not clean. A ritual can become dishonest if it demands praise where truth is needed, but a complete rejection of form may also leave a person with no way to acknowledge that a life, a role, a history, and an obligation existed. This is where grief shows the difficulty of ritual more clearly than any ordinary etiquette example. The heart is not a smooth instrument. It can love and resent. It can mourn and feel relief. It can be numb and guilty about numbness. It can want to honor and want to flee. If ritual demands a simple emotion, it lies. If ritual gives a form wide enough to hold human complexity, it may help. Confucius asks for sorrow, reverence, and presence. Those words are not small. Sorrow means the rite has not become display. Reverence means the dead and the relation are not treated casually. Presence means the person performing the form is inwardly there, not using the ceremony as a substitute for attention. The form cannot feel for you. It cannot make grief pure. It cannot turn a damaged relation into a harmless one. But it can give you a way to stand where feeling alone may collapse. It can protect the dignity of the moment when the self is too overwhelmed to invent dignity. That is why mourning without any script can be cruel. It asks the grieving person to be original when they are already broken open. Ritual says, you do not have to create this from nothing. The gesture is old because sorrow is old, and yet the rite has to remain answerable to sorrow. When it becomes display, it fails. When it becomes expense without reverence, it fails. When it becomes family theatre, it fails. When it makes absence into a performance of status, it fails. The Confucian standard is not more ceremony, it is truer presence. A quiet bow may carry more than a grand procession. A simple meal may remember more than an expensive display. A spare word said with attention may do more moral work than a long speech given for appearances. Grief needs form because grief is too heavy to improvise forever, but form needs grief, or it becomes a room arranged around emptiness. Confucius also forces us to notice that the family is where moral training begins before it can be chosen. A child learns tone, weighting, gratitude, shame, tenderness and resentment in rooms where no theory has been named. That makes family ritual powerful, and it makes it risky. The earliest forms can teach care so deeply that care feels natural. They can also teach fear so deeply that fear is mistaken for respect. Few words are as simple and as difficult as family names. Mother, father, son, daughter, brother, sister, grandparent, child. The words are short, but they do not only describe biology. They carry memory, duty, expectation, debt, affection, disappointment, protection, injury, and sometimes fear. You can feel the power of a family name when it is spoken at a table. Someone says father, and the room changes. Someone says mother, and years are suddenly present. The word may call forth tenderness. It may also call forth resentment. It may name someone who cared for you, or someone who should have cared and did not. A family role is never only a label, it is a form of relation. Confucius places enormous weight on family roles, especially filial conduct. That can be hard for a modern person to hear. We know the danger. Family language can become a demand that the vulnerable stay quiet. Respect can be used to protect the elder from accountability. Duty can be used to excuse harm. The word parent can be treated as a shield, as if the role itself settles the moral question. If we are honest, that danger has to stay in the room. But Confucius is not only saying, obey your family. In the Analects, filial piety is connected not only with feeding parents, but with reverence, countenance, service, burial, and ritual remembrance. One passage makes the point almost painfully practical. Caring for parents is more than providing food, because even animals are fed. What makes the relation human is reverence. The outward support has to carry a form of regard. This distinction matters. Confucius does not reduce family duty to material maintenance. He asks what the care means. A person can send money and remain cold. A person can fulfill an obligation and still show contempt. A person can do what is technically required while making the other feel like a burden. The form of filial conduct is meant to shape not only action, but the manner in which action is given. Again, we find the same pattern. The form matters, but the heart of the form matters more. Feeding without reverence is incomplete. Reverence without care is too private. The relation needs both. For many people, this is where Confucius becomes uncomfortable. The family is not only a place of moral formation, it is also a place where moral injury can be hidden. A child may be told to perform respect towards someone who has not acted responsibly. A daughter may be asked to carry duties her brother escapes. A son may be told that silence is loyalty. A younger person may be taught that their pain is disrespect. A responsible reading cannot pretend those as side issues. They show exactly how ritual can become coercive. The form of family reverence can train humane attention. It can also train submission to a broken role. So what can Confucius still offer? He can help us see that the family name is not meant to be empty. If someone is called father, the name should not only claim authority, it should name a responsibility to act as a father. If someone is called child, the name should not only impose debt, it should name a relation shaped by care, gratitude where it is real, and continuity across time. The name has moral content. When the content is absent, the name becomes painful because it keeps calling for what is missing. That is a useful way to understand why family rituals can hurt. A holiday meal, a birthday call, a funeral custom, a seat at the table, a formal greeting. These things do not feel neutral. They carry the role back into the body. If the relation is healthy, the form can be warm. If the relation is damaged, the form can feel like a demand to pretend. Confucius would not solve that modern pain for us. He gives us a language of role and reverence, but he does not give the same language of individual boundary that many people now need. We should not force him to be a modern therapist, but we can still use the pressure in his thought. A role that demands reverence while refusing responsibility is not fully itself. A family form that silences truth has lost humanness. This is where the family name becomes a test. Does the form call each person toward their responsibility, or does it protect one person from responsibility? Does it train care in both directions, or only obedience in one? Does the ritual meal make room for relation, or does it stage a piece that everyone knows is false? Consider the ordinary act of serving food. It can be mechanical, it can be resentful, it can be performed for praise, but it can also be one of the simplest ways care becomes visible. Someone notices what another person can eat. Someone remembers a preference. Someone waits until the elder has been served. Someone makes room at the table. None of this is grand. It is Li in the small register of domestic life, care given a repeatable shape. But if the same meal requires everyone to hide what is wrong, the form begins to rot. The table becomes a stage. The gesture still happens, but trust drains out of it. Confucius helps us name that as a failure of humanness within the form, not proof that all forms of family care are false. This is an important distinction because the loss of family ritual can leave people stranded. Many modern lives have weaker shared forms around family care. People still need to know how to visit, apologize, remember, grieve, thank, and take responsibility across generations. If inherited rituals are rejected without replacement, those responsibilities do not disappear. They simply become harder to carry. You may not be able to keep every form. Some forms deserve to end, but the Confucian question follows you. What will carry reverence now? What will teach care when the feeling is tired? What will remind the strong of their responsibility? What will protect the vulnerable from being reduced to duty? What will help memory survive ordinary neglect? Family names show why ritual cannot be judged from the outside alone. The same word can be tender in one mouth and cruel in another. The same meal can gather one family and suffocate another. The same funeral rite can honor a parent honestly or demand praise where grief is mixed with pain. Confucius asks that roles become real. Our modern caution asks that roles not become cages. Both concerns are necessary. If role disappears entirely, responsibility may become optional. If role becomes absolute, truth may be crushed. So the family name problem is not solved by saying, follow the old names. It is not solved by saying, throw them away. It asks a more difficult thing. Let the name be judged by the responsibility it carries. Let the form be judged by the humanness it trains. Let reverence remain tied to truth. The word father should call a father to fathering. The word child should not erase the child's dignity. The meal should gather, not trap. The ritual should help care become visible, not force pain into silence. A family form can hold memory. It can also hold injury. Confucius helps us see why it matters. Modern suspicion helps us see why it must be tested. A name can bring comfort and it can accuse. When someone says friend, the word can remind you of loyalty you gladly give. It can also reveal where you have neglected someone. When someone says teacher, the word can call forth gratitude. It can also expose vanity. Roles are powerful because they do not merely describe a social position. They ask whether our conduct is worthy of the place we claim. You do not move through life as a bare individual with no names attached. You are called friend, child, parent, neighbor, citizen, teacher, stranger, guest, host, worker, elder, student. Some of these names are chosen. Some arrive before choice. Some fit. Some feel too tight. Some call you toward your best responsibilities. Some carry expectations you never agreed to bear. Confucius gives roles a central moral place. This is one of the reasons his thought can feel both clarifying and troubling. Clarifying because roles help us understand what we owe. Troubling because roles can become cages. In one famous Analects passage, proper government is described through names being fulfilled. Ruler as ruler, minister as minister, father as father, son as son. To a modern ear, that may sound like rigid hierarchy. It can become that. But the basic idea is not only that people should stay in their assigned boxes. It is that a name should name a responsibility. If someone holds the title ruler but does not rule rightly, the name has become false. If someone bears the name father but does not act with fatherly responsibility, the name has become false. The role is not a costume, it is a claim made on conduct. Another passage deepens this through what is often called the rectification of names. If names are not correct, language does not accord with reality. If language fails, affairs fail. Ritual and music do not flourish. Punishments miss the mark. People do not know how to move hand or foot. The chain sounds dramatic, but the human point is direct. When words no longer name real responsibilities, a society becomes disoriented. You can see this everywhere. If a promise no longer means a promise, people stop trusting speech. If a leader no longer treats office as responsibility, the title becomes cover. If a parent claims authority without care, the family name becomes confused. If an apology no longer means accountability, apology language becomes manipulation. Once names detach from conduct, people no longer know how to respond. They hesitate, they doubt, they protect themselves. Confucius thinks ritual and names belong together because both orient action. A name tells you what kind of relation you are in. A ritual gives that relation a form. If both fail, human beings are left to negotiate every encounter from scratch, while using words no one fully trusts. This is why role language can be morally powerful. It can remind the person in power that they are not free to act from appetite alone. A ruler is not merely someone who possesses force. A parent is not merely someone older. A teacher is not merely someone with information. A host is not merely someone who owns the room. Each name should discipline the person who bears it. But here the danger sharpens. In practice, roles often discipline the weaker person more than the stronger one. The child is told to be filial, while the parent is not held to parenthood. The subject is told to obey, while the ruler avoids justice. The guest is told to be grateful, while the host uses hospitality to control. The younger person is told to show respect, while the elder treats respect as entitlement. If that happens, rectification of names has failed. The name is being used in one direction only. It asks for performance from below and grants protection above. That is not a living form. It is a hierarchy wearing moral language. Confucius does not become modern here. We should be honest about that. His world assumes forms of hierarchy many people now question deeply. But the inner pressure of his own thought gives us a test. Does the name call the powerful to responsibility, or only the vulnerable to compliance? Does the role make humane relation more visible, or does it hide the absence of humanity behind a title? Think about the word teacher. A teacher has authority, but the authority is not meant to serve vanity. It is meant to serve the student's learning. When a teacher uses the role to humiliate, the title remains, but the name has been damaged. The student may still say teacher, but the word no longer carries trust. Ritual respect in that room becomes difficult, because the role has not been fulfilled. Think about the word guest. A guest is not an invader, a guest is received, but the guest also has a form to keep. A guest should not treat hospitality as entitlement. The host and guest each receive a role, and the ritual of hospitality works only when both roles are alive. If one side uses the form while rejecting the responsibility, the relation tilts. This is why roles can be liberating in one situation and suffocating in another. A good role tells you how to care when private feeling is uncertain. A bad role tells you to disappear. A good role names what the other person may rightly expect from you. A bad role demands that you carry expectations no one has earned. Confucius helps us resist the fantasy that we can live without roles. Even rejecting a role is often a way of arguing about what the role should mean. When someone says, "That was not a real father," or that leader has betrayed the office, or that apology was not an apology, they are using a role standard. They are saying the name has moral content and the conduct failed to meet it. This is a powerful point. Modern life often wants freedom from imposed names, but it still depends on meaningful names. We want promises to mean something. We want public office to mean responsibility. We want friendship to mean loyalty without ownership. We want family words to mean care without coercion. We want apology to mean repair, not escape. We want hospitality to mean welcome, not performance. That means we still live inside names. The issue is whether the names are honest. Ritual gives names a body. The teacher listens, the parent cares. The guest enters with respect, the host receives with generosity. The mourner pauses, the ruler restrains appetite for the sake of trust. These actions are not decorative, they are the role becoming visible. But because ritual makes roles visible, it can also make false roles more painful. A ceremony for a corrupt official can make corruption appear dignified. A family ritual around a harmful parent can make harm appear sacred. A workplace ceremony can make exploitation appear grateful. Form gives power to names, and that power can be misused. So we need both Confucian seriousness and modern caution. We need to see that role names are not empty labels. We also need to refuse roles that demand performance without reciprocity. A name should not be a prison. It should be a call to responsibility. When names are right, they help people know how to move. When names are false, every gesture becomes uncertain. You do not know whether respect is respect or fear. You do not know whether apology is apology or strategy. You do not know whether authority is authority or appetite. You do not know where to place your trust. Confucius's world may not be ours, but that confusion is ours. We live with titles that have lost credibility, family names that carry mixed histories, public words that no longer feel trustworthy, and rituals that sometimes ask us to honor what has not honored us back. The repair begins by asking what the name should demand of the person who bears it. Not only what it demands from others, what must a father do to be father? What must a friend do to be friend? What must a ruler do to be ruler? What must a host do to be host? What must a human being do to be humane? A role becomes dangerous when it only claims status. It becomes moral when it accepts responsibility. This is why the smallest manners can feel so large when they are missing. The person who never looks up from the phone may insist they care. The person who forgets every ordinary sign of regard may say the feeling is private. Perhaps it is, but the one on the receiving side cannot live on invisible regard forever. Relation asks the inward thing to take a form humble enough to be trusted. There is a difference between words said carefully and the same words thrown across a room. The sentence may be identical, the meaning is not. One apology rushes past the pain and looks for escape. Another stays still long enough for the silence after it to matter. The difference is form. We often treat form as decoration, as if the real thing is the inner substance and the outward manner is optional. Confucius will not let the distinction stay that simple. In one analects exchange, monarch answers a claim about substance and ornament by saying, in effect, that ornament is as substance and substance as ornament. The translation can vary, but the point is striking. The way something appears is not always a detachable surface. Form is one way substance becomes available to others. This is not about prettiness, it is about recognizability. Care that arrives carelessly can fail as care. Respect that refuses any respectful form may not be received as respect. Gratitude that is never expressed leaves the giver alone with the gift. Sorrow that is never given shape may remain invisible to the people who need to mourn together. That does not mean appearances are everything. Beautiful form can deceive. A polished apology can hide calculation. A graceful ceremony can conceal cruelty. A respectful tone can be used to avoid truth. Confucius knows this because he has already told us that ritual without humanness fails. But the answer to deceptive form is not the fantasy of formless substance. Other people cannot live inside a hidden intention. They have to meet what is done. This is why form matters in ordinary moral life. Love that never arrives in a recognizable way remains uncertain. Private respect does not protect someone from careless speech. Gratitude that never pauses to acknowledge what was given stays locked inside the grateful person, and perhaps not even very real there. The heart has to arrive somewhere others can meet it. Confucian ritual is concerned with that arrival. It trains the body, voice, timing, and posture so humane intention does not remain vague, waiting one's turn, lowering the voice, offering the seat, pausing before entering, speaking the name carefully, receiving a guest with attention. These forms are not moral theatre when they carry real regard. They are the texture through which regard becomes shareable. There is another Analect's passage that says harmony is valuable in ritual, but harmony without regulating form is not enough. That matters because harmony can be misunderstood. People often think harmony means smoothness, no friction, no discomfort, no hard truth. But that kind of harmony may only be avoidance. A family can look harmonious because no one says what happened. A workplace can look harmonious because everyone is afraid. A ceremony can look harmonious because dissent has been excluded. Confucian harmony is not supposed to be mere smoothness, it is ease held within rightful form. The form matters because it keeps harmony from becoming evasion. It gives relation enough boundary that peace does not mean lying. This is subtle. Too much stiffness kills warmth. Too much informality can make people careless. A good form lets people be at ease without forgetting what they owe. It allows speech without cruelty, relaxation without contempt, grief without casualness, honesty without the excuse of meanness. A meal can show the difference. A rigid meal becomes unbearable. Every gesture is watched. No one breathes, but a formless meal can also become careless. People interrupt, reach across the table, ignore one another, and turn attention into noise. The right form does not draw attention to itself. It lets the relation happen well. That is how ritual works when it is alive. It does not say, look at the form. It lets people meet. The danger is that form can become self-conscious. Then the meal becomes about proving refinement. The ceremony becomes about proving status. The apology becomes about managing image. The greeting becomes about measuring rank. When form begins to admire itself, it starts to separate from humanness. Confucius's own standard turns against it. So the claim is not that form is always sincere. The claim is that substance without form often fails to become relational. The inner life may be real, but human beings are not minds floating in isolation. We meet through voices, gestures, rooms, names, customs, and repeated acts. A person who says, "Only my intention matters," forgets that other people live with the action. This is why social recognizability matters. If every person invented a private form of respect, gratitude, apology, and mourning, freedom would grow in one direction and confusion in another. More energy would go into interpretation. Did the silence mean care or indifference? Did the absence mean grief or avoidance? Did the joke mean affection or contempt? Shared forms reduce some of that uncertainty. They are not perfect, but they give relation a starting point, a handshake, a bow, a condolence, a thank you, a seat offered, a name spoken. None guarantees sincerity. Each can still create a recognizable moral sign. It tells the other person, this moment is not only about me. Confucius is deeply interested in that reorientation. Ritual turns the self outward. It says the room has a shape before desire enters it. There is someone older, someone grieving, someone arriving as guest, and someone who deserves not to be treated as a tool. The form trains attention toward that fact. Modern life often prizes informality because informality feels honest. Sometimes it is. False formality can be suffocating. But informality can also become a disguise for self-centeredness. Without form, the bold person dominates, the impatient person interrupts, the powerful person calls disrespect authenticity, the vulnerable person absorbs the cost. A shared form can protect people from the moods of whoever happens to be strongest in the room. Again, this protection can fail. Social recognizability can punish sincere but unusual forms of care. Not everyone expresses respect in the same way. Not everyone can inhabit inherited gestures without pain. A community can mistake difference for disrespect. That is another reason ritual must remain answerable to humanness. The form exists for relation, not relation for the form, but care does not become purer by losing all shape. A goodness that never becomes visible asks too much of others. They have to guess, excuse, interpret, and hope. Confucius asks the person to take responsibility for appearing well, not in the sense of image, but in the sense of making humane intention livable for others. This may be one of the hardest lessons for anyone hurt by hollow performance. Once form has been used falsely, spontaneous feeling can look like the only honest refuge. But spontaneity has its own disguises. An insult may feel honest. Withdrawal may feel protective. A refusal to thank may feel authentic. None of that makes it humane. Form is not decoration when it teaches the self how to carry substance into the world. It is not a wrapper around care. It can be the way care learns to be received. The manner is not nothing. The tone is not nothing. The pause is not nothing. The place set at the table is not nothing. They may deceive. They may also be where truth becomes touchable. The danger grows when performance is rewarded. People learn to imitate the signs that power praises. They learn the safe tone, the respectful posture, the ceremonial words. Soon the whole room can become fluent in virtue without becoming more humane. Confucius's own warnings against empty ritual matter because they give us permission to judge that fluency. A culture can become skilled at looking ordered while losing the courage to be truthful. Power is very good at borrowing the language of virtue. It can bow while refusing to change. It can speak softly while punishing dissent. It can use ceremony to make itself look rightful. It can demand respect from those beneath it while treating responsibility as optional. This is where ritual becomes dangerous. If ritual trains humane relation, then power will want its appearance. Formal dignity can make domination look calm. Public ceremony can make status look sacred. Polite speech can hide fear. A person at the top can perform reverence while using the form to protect themselves from moral scrutiny. You have seen smaller versions of this. Someone who uses manners to end a conversation they do not want to have. Someone who invokes tradition only when it benefits them. Someone who praises respect while never offering it in return. The Analects contains anxiety about rights used wrongly by people of rank. We do not need every historical detail to see the point. When ritual belongs to status rather than humanness, it becomes a costume. It keeps the visual order of virtue while losing its substance. From far away, the room looks dignified. Up close, the dignity may be protecting the wrong person. This is a real objection to Confucian ritual. A tradition that values form and hierarchy can be exploited by those who already hold power. The more beautiful the form, the easier it may be to make domination look natural. The more people are trained to respect office, age, rank, or role, the easier it may be for a corrupt bearer of that role to demand gestures they have not earned. A serious account cannot avoid this. Ritual can train virtue. It can also train submission. It can make responsibility visible. It can also make inequality appear morally ordered. The difference cannot be judged by outer beauty alone. There is a passage in which full ritual propriety in serving a prince is mistaken for flattery. That is a fascinating tension. Confucius knows that sincere form may look fake from outside. A person who serves with care may be accused of currying favor. The observer sees the bow, the speech, the deference, and thinks, this is performance. Sometimes the observer is wrong. Suspicion can be too quick. Not every bowed head is cowardice. Not every respectful word is manipulation. Not every ceremony is hypocrisy. If we decide that all deference is false, we may become unable to recognize sincere forms of service, gratitude, or regard. But sometimes the observer is right. Flattery often wears the clothes of propriety. It studies the expected gesture and performs it for advantage. It knows when to smile, when to praise, when to bow, when to quote the old words. It can look almost identical to genuine respect, because both use the same outer language. This is one of the hardest things about ritual. The moral meaning of form is not always visible at a glance. Confucius does not give a cheap solution. He gives standards that must be brought together: humanness, reverence, trust, reciprocity, and rightful role. A form deserves trust when it disciplines the person who benefits from it, not only the person beneath it. If only the subordinate is restrained, the ritual is suspect. If only the child must show reverence, the family form is suspect. If only the guest must be grateful while the host uses welcome to control, the hospitality is suspect. If only citizens must honor the office while office holders abandon responsibility, the public ceremony is suspect. Analects 12.2 gives a guardrail through its image of receiving others as if receiving a great guest and not imposing on others what one would not want. That is not egalitarian in a modern political sense, and we should not pretend it is, but it does make ritual seriousness relational. The other person is not an object. The form is not there only to secure your rank. It trains how you receive and restrain yourself toward another. Analects 12.7 gives another guardrail by treating trust as more basic than arms or food in government. Whatever else we make of the passage, Confucius is not indifferent to social trust. If ritual destroys trust, it has failed one of the very goods it should protect. This matters because power can demand trust as a ritual performance. It can say, respect the office, respect the elder, respect the ceremony, respect the tradition. But Confucius's own concern with trust lets us ask, has the office acted in a way that can be trusted? Has the elder fulfilled the responsibility of age? Has the ceremony preserved humanness, or has it become a screen? Has the tradition disciplined the powerful, or only the weak? If only one side bows, something is already wrong. This does not mean every relation must become identical. Confucius is a role thinker. He does not imagine a world without distinctions between parent and child, ruler and subject, elder and younger, host and guest. But role difference should not mean moral exemption. The higher role should carry heavier responsibility, not easier vanity. A ruler who wants ritual honor without rightful rule has emptied the name ruler. A parent who wants filial respect without care has emptied the name parent. A teacher who wants deference without teaching has emptied the name teacher. A host who wants gratitude without generosity has emptied the name host. The form exposes the failure because it shows what the person is claiming. This is why power performing virtue is so offensive. It does not only fail to be good, it steals the signs of goodness. It teaches people to distrust the very gestures that might otherwise help them live together. When too many bows have been demanded by the unworthy, bowing itself begins to look false. When too many ceremonies have protected corruption, ceremony itself begins to feel rotten. When too many respectful words have been used to silence truth, respect language becomes suspect. The damage spreads beyond the immediate abuse. It hollows out the shared forms everyone else still needs. Confucius's defense of ritual, therefore, has to be paired with a critique of ritualized power. If the form is to remain alive, it must be answerable to Ren. It must make humane responsibility visible. It must train restraint in those who could otherwise take without asking. It must protect the person received, not only the person honored. It must be capable of judging the powerful when they hide inside the form. This is not a culture war point. It is older and more basic. Human beings are tempted to use moral language for advantage. Ritual gives moral language a body. Therefore, ritual can also give hypocrisy a body. Confucius knows enough about hollow ceremony to make that problem internal to the discussion. The answer is not to trust every form. The answer is also not to trust suspicion alone. Suspicion can become lazy. It can mistake every disciplined gesture for manipulation. It can refuse the possibility of sincere reverence because it has seen false reverence before. That would leave us with no shared signs except distrust. We need a harder judgment. What does the form do over time? Does it call the powerful to restraint? Does it protect the vulnerable from impulse? Does it preserve trust? Does it allow truth to be spoken? Does it carry reverence or only demand admiration? Does it ask humanness from the one who benefits most? A costume can look like order from far away. Up close, you have to ask who is safer because of it, who is silenced by it, and who is being formed. The guest image also corrects a narrow idea of ritual as occasional ceremony. Most of our moral life is not conducted at altars or official gatherings. It happens at thresholds, tables, messages, hospital rooms, kitchen counters, offices, and quiet returns after conflict. The person arrives, and your form of attention tells them whether they are being met. In that sense, every doorway asks a small philosophical question. Someone arrives at your door, and before any philosophy is named, the moral world has already begun. You can receive them as an interruption. You can receive them as a task. You can receive them with distracted politeness, the kind that says, I know the form, but not the attention. Or you can pause long enough for the other person to feel that they have entered a human space. Confucius gives one of his clearest images in Analects 12.2. In public, behave as if receiving a great guest. In employing people, act as if assisting at a great sacrifice. Do not impose on others what you yourself would not want. The language sounds ceremonial, but the reach is ordinary. The seriousness of ritual is brought into everyday encounter. A guest at the door is not only a social situation, it is a test of attention. The other person has crossed a threshold into your space, your time, your power to include or exclude. The form of receiving them tells them what kind of world they have entered. Are they welcome? Are they being tolerated? Are they seen? Are they already a burden? This is why courtesy is not always small. It can be superficial, yes. It can be used to avoid truth. But in its living form, courtesy tells another person, your arrival matters enough to change my conduct. I will not treat you as an object in my path. I will not let my convenience decide everything. I will give the encounter a shape that acknowledges you. That is ritual in a quiet key. The great guest image raises the standard. Most of us know how to behave when an important person arrives. We become attentive, we check our tone, we think about the room, we restrain impatience. Confucius asks us to carry that seriousness into ordinary relation, not because everyone has rank, but because everyone deserves not to be handled casually. This is not etiquette advice. It is moral perception. The form trains you to see the other person before your desire fills the space. It says, do not let your mood decide the whole encounter. Do not let haste make another person feel like an obstacle. Do not let familiarity become carelessness. You can feel how needed this is. Many wounds are not dramatic. They come from being processed instead of received. Someone answers while looking elsewhere. Someone lets you stand awkwardly while they continue their own task. Someone uses the right words with no pause in them. Nothing terrible happens, yet you leave diminished. The form was present enough to avoid obvious rudeness, but absent enough to deny real welcome. Confucius thinks small forms matter because humanness often begins there. A person who cannot receive another in a small moment may not be ready for grand moral claims. The doorway is not a small place. It is where another person first discovers whether your world has room for them. The same Analects passage gives the negative rule of reciprocity. Do not impose on others what you would not want. This is often compared to other moral formulas, but we should keep it close to ritual. Ritual trains restraint. It teaches a person to pause before their own convenience becomes another person's burden. You know how easy imposition is. You speak too long because you enjoy speaking. You arrive late because your time felt more vivid than theirs. You ask for help without noticing the cost. You bring your anger into a room and make everyone carry it. You demand attention when someone is tired. You treat another person's patience as if it were simply available. Often there is no dramatic malice. There is only untrained self-centeredness. Ritual interrupts that. It gives the self a form that says, there is another side to this encounter. Imagine being the one received. Imagine being the one interrupted. Imagine being the one asked to carry a burden. Imagine being the one waiting at the door. Care often begins as a pause. This is why the Confucian view cannot be reduced to external ceremony. The form of receiving a guest trains imagination. It asks you to inhabit, even briefly, the other side. The gesture is outward, but the discipline is inward too. You learn to feel the weight of your action as it lands on someone else. At the same time, hospitality can be false. A host can be gracious in order to control. Courtesy can become a way to avoid honest disagreement. A house can welcome you warmly and still make you feel that gratitude is being demanded. The guest form can be weaponized. We should not be naive, but the abuse of hospitality does not erase the human need to be received. It only shows how important the form is. Because welcome matters, false welcome wounds. Because courtesy matters, manipulative courtesy corrupts trust. Because guest and host are real roles, their misuse can damage the relation. The role of guest also carries responsibility. To be received is not to consume the host. A guest should not treat welcome as entitlement. The guest form asks gratitude, restraint, and awareness of the house entered. Again, the form works both ways. Host and guest are each trained out of private impulse, the host out of indifference, the guest out of entitlement. This two-sided discipline is one of the best safeguards against hierarchy becoming mere domination. A living ritual does not only tell one person to lower themselves, it gives each side a responsibility. If one side receives all the honor and none of the discipline, the form is already ill. Analects 12.7 brings trust into the picture. Confucius says that in government, alms and food may be lost before trust can be lost. The passage concerns rule, but the insight spreads. Life becomes exhausting when every gesture has to be doubted. If you cannot trust greeting, apology, promise, office, family role, or hospitality, then ordinary life becomes a constant inspection of hidden motives. No society can inspect every heart. No family can run on suspicion alone. No friendship can survive if every gesture has to prove itself from the beginning every time. Shared forms help trust become repeatable. They do not guarantee trust, they give trust a place to begin. This is why the guest at the door is such a useful image. It is small enough to recognize and large enough to carry the whole argument. The other person arrives. Your impulse is not enough. Your private goodness is not enough. The situation asks for a form of welcome, a restraint of self, a recognition that another person has entered your care for this moment. If the form is empty, they will feel it. If the form is alive, they may relax before they can explain why. Ritual matters because much of human life happens in these thresholds. Entering, leaving, greeting, asking, receiving, refusing, apologizing, thanking. Each moment can be done in a way that treats the other person as real, or in a way that makes them feel like a problem to be managed. Confucius asks us not to treat such moments as trivial. A humane life is not built only in dramatic moral choices. It is built in the repeated forms by which people learn whether they can approach one another. The doorway is not a small place. A small scene in the Analects gives us one of the best tests of ritual. Zigong wants to do away with the sheep offered at a monthly ceremony. The practice seems wasteful, perhaps outdated, perhaps hard to justify. Confucius answers, "You love the sheep, I love the ceremony." It is easy to misunderstand this. Zigong's concern is not stupid. A living animal is involved. A cost is involved. The practical mind looks at the ceremony and asks whether the reason is still strong enough. If the form has become empty, why keep paying for it? That is a morally serious question. Confucius does not answer by saying, old customs must never be questioned. He points to another kind of loss. Zigong sees the sheep. Confucius sees the ceremony. The disagreement is about what disappears when a form is removed. You know this in ordinary life. Someone wants to stop a family custom because it feels inconvenient. A yearly meal, a grave visit, a small holiday gesture, a way of greeting an elder, a repeated act whose original explanation has grown faint. Part of you may agree. The practical reason is weak. The cost is real. The custom is awkward. Why keep doing it? But sometimes the form carries more than its explanation can quickly say. It gathers people who would otherwise drift. It keeps a memory from becoming only an idea. It makes a relation visible across time. It tells the young that something happened before them. It tells the old that what they carried has not vanished completely. Communities remember by doing, not only by explaining. This does not mean every repeated form is wise. Repetition can preserve harm. It can keep alive a hierarchy that should end. It can demand labor from those already tired. It can turn memory into resentment. It can become inertia with a sacred tone. Confucius's answer about the sheep is not a permission slip for every old practice, but it does challenge the narrowness of practical calculation. Some things look useless when measured only by immediate cost, because their value lies in attention, continuity, and shared memory. A ceremony may preserve the fact that a community once knew how to gather around a meaning. Remove the ceremony, and perhaps nothing dramatic happens at first. The calendar becomes simpler, the expense disappears, the awkwardness ends. Then, slowly, a memory has no body. That is the kind of loss Confucius fears. A custom can be a memory with hands. It may not explain itself well. It may be clumsy. It may need reform. But while it exists, someone has to show up, prepare, arrange, speak, carry, offer, or pause. The memory enters the body. It becomes a practiced attention rather than a sentence in the mind. This helps explain why ritual can feel important even after belief has changed. People may no longer hold the old explanation in the same way. Still, the form gathers grief, gratitude, ancestry, obligation, or communal identity. The question is whether the form still carries those goods honestly, or whether it has become a shell defended only because change feels frightening. The sheep scene forces both sides to be humble. Zigong represents the necessary critique. Do not preserve cost without asking why. Confucius represents the necessary caution. Do not remove a form before asking what it carries. The practical mind can see waste. It may miss memory. The ritual mind can see continuity. It may miss harm. We need both. Consider an old family practice. Every year someone cooks the same dish. Perhaps no one remembers exactly when it began. The younger people complain. The preparation takes time. The taste is not fashionable. The story attached to it is partial. Then one year it stops. At first, no one minds. Later, someone realizes that the dish had been holding a person, a migration, a hardship, a grandmother's hands, a language almost gone. The custom was not only food, it was a way memory kept asking for a place at the table. That does not mean the custom must remain unchanged forever. Maybe the burden fell unfairly on one person. Maybe the ritual gathered everyone while exhausting the same hands. A living form can be repaired. It can be shared differently. It can become simpler. Remember Analects 3.4, better the root than extravagance. The point is not to preserve every detail. The point is to ask what the form is carrying before deciding whether to end it. This is especially important in a culture of efficiency. Modern life is very good at asking whether something saves time, reduces cost, increases convenience, or removes friction. Those are not bad questions, but they are incomplete questions. A ritual may be valuable precisely because it refuses to let efficiency decide everything. It makes time for the dead. It makes room for gratitude. It repeats a gesture so memory does not depend on mood. Again, the form can go wrong. Ritual can become clutter. People can keep doing what no one understands because no one wants to offend the past. The ceremony can remain while the relation dies. Confucius's own standard would judge that. Ceremony without reverence is not worth defending, but if we remove every form whose reason cannot be quickly stated, we may train ourselves to value only what can defend itself in the language of use. That is a thin language for human life. Love is not always efficient. Mourning is not efficient. Gratitude is not efficient. Reverence is not efficient. Memory is not efficient. Yet without them, life becomes less human. The sheep and the ceremony ask us to slow down before reform. What exactly is being preserved? Who bears the cost? Who benefits? What memory, relation, or reverence would vanish? Can the form be repaired rather than erased? Has it already lost its root? Is the practical objection a moral objection or only impatience? There is no single answer because rituals differ. Some should end, some should be simplified, some should be restored. Some should be allowed to die because they no longer carry humane meaning. Some should be protected because they are the last remaining body of a memory people still need. Confucius's line is powerful because it does not deny Zigong's compassion. You love the sheep, that love matters. But he asks for another love too. Love for the ceremony, for the shared form that may carry more than the immediate object. The moral task is to hold both loves without letting either become blind. Sometimes the object is not only an object. Sometimes the cost is not only waste. Sometimes the custom is not only habit. Sometimes it is a relation trying to survive through repetition. And sometimes the form is empty. The wisdom is in learning how to tell the difference. The scene also asks, what kind of attention can survive when a ceremony no longer feels persuasive? Zigong sees the immediate burden because the burden is visible. Confucius sees a weaker, slower danger because the danger is cultural forgetfulness. Both sides are needed. A form can be cruel if it keeps demanding cost after its humane purpose is gone. It can also be precious because it preserves a relation no one is eloquent enough to defend on command. The moral work is to ask patiently before cutting. You can inherit a custom after trust has weakened. The words remain, but they no longer feel innocent. The ceremony remains, but you know too much about how ceremonies can be used. The family role remains, but the relation is mixed. The philosopher's name remains, but the name has been carried through politics, culture, education, state power, reverence, rejection, and nostalgia. Confucius himself is not only a historical teacher in later memory, he becomes a symbol. Different ages use him to defend different visions of order, culture, morality, and authority. Serious scholars warn us not to treat the name Confucius as one simple, untouched package. That caution matters because tradition often arrives already interpreted. When someone invokes Confucius, what are they invoking? A teacher from the Analects, a later imperial symbol, a family ethic, a political order, a cultural identity, a moral vocabulary of roles and ritual, a simplified slogan about respect. The answer may change depending on who is speaking and why. This is why tradition needs testing. To value ritual is not to submit blindly to whatever the past hands down. The past is not one voice. It contains wisdom, injury, beauty, hierarchy, memory, coercion, insight, and habit. If we treat it as sacred because it is old, we stop thinking. If we treat it as worthless because it is old, we also stop thinking. Confucius is often presented as a defender of tradition, and there is truth in that. He values inherited Zhou forms. He thinks the past can teach. He believes people are formed through practices they receive, not only through choices they invent. But his own remarks about hollow ritual show that inheritance is not self-justifying. The form must still carry humanness. That gives us a way to approach tradition without worship. Ask what the form trains. Ask whose dignity it protects. Ask whose labor it requires. Ask what memory it carries. Ask whether it disciplines the powerful as well as the vulnerable. Ask whether reverence is alive, or whether only fear remains. Ask whether the custom can be repaired, simplified, or reinterpreted without losing its root. This is slower than both rejection and obedience. It is also more honest. Modern people often fear tradition because it can speak with a voice that allows no reply. It says, "This is how things are done." It says, "Your discomfort proves your immaturity." It says, "Your role is already decided." It says, "Respect means silence." When tradition speaks that way, suspicion is not only understandable, it may be necessary. But there is another modern danger. We may become so afraid of inherited forms that we imagine freedom as the absence of all prior shape. Then every relation has to be negotiated by private preference. Every obligation becomes optional until personally chosen. Every ceremony must defend itself to the individual mood. Every old gesture looks like manipulation. That can feel liberating for a while. It can also leave people without shared ways to carry grief, gratitude, restraint, and memory. Confucius makes that absence visible. He reminds us that a human being is formed before they are fully able to choose their formation. Language comes before us. Family names come before us. Meals, greetings, funerals, promises, apologies, and roles come before us. We can revise them, we can reject some, we can repair others, but we do not begin from nothing. The question is how to inherit without surrendering judgment. A tradition worth keeping should be able to answer to the humane goods it claims to serve. If a mourning rite claims to honor the dead, does it help the living remember with presence and sorrow? If a family custom claims to preserve respect, does it also call the elder to care? If a public ceremony claims to honor office, does the office bear responsibility? If a gesture claims to show gratitude, does it train perception of what was given? When the answer is no, the form is in trouble. It may need reform. It may need resistance. It may need to end. Confucian seriousness about ritual does not require preserving a form after its root has died. But the same test can save us from shallow dismissal. If a custom looks awkward but still gathers people with care, perhaps awkwardness is not enough reason to discard it. If a greeting feels old-fashioned but teaches attention to the person entering, perhaps it still has life. If a funeral form feels strange but helps sorrow become shareable, perhaps strangeness is not falsehood. If a family meal feels repetitive but keeps memory present, perhaps repetition is its work. Tradition without blind obedience is not tradition made weak. It is tradition kept under moral examination. The form is asked to breathe. If it cannot breathe, it should not be defended as though age were enough. This also means that innovation needs humility. When we replace a ritual, we should ask what job the old form was doing. Did it gather people? Did it mark time? Did it teach restraint? Did it carry memory? Did it protect grief? Did it make gratitude visible? If so, the replacement has to carry those goods somehow. Otherwise, we have not only removed a bad form, we may have removed a needed support and left nothing in its place. Many modern substitutes are weaker than we admit. A text message replaces a visit. A casual phrase replaces a condolence. A private feeling replaces a public commitment. An online reminder replaces a remembered date. These may be useful. They may also reduce the weight of the relation. Efficiency returns, reverence thins. Again, no simple rule follows. A text may be better than silence. A casual phrase may be more honest than a grand false speech. A private boundary may be necessary against a harmful family ritual. The point is not to condemn modern life. The point is to notice what the older forms were carrying before we assume nothing was lost. Confucius gives us respect for inherited form. Modern suspicion gives us protection against inherited harm. The best path needs both. Respect without suspicion becomes obedience. Suspicion without respect becomes rootlessness. So when a tradition arrives, do not ask only, is it old? Ask what it makes possible. Do not ask only, is it mine? Ask what it asks of you and what it asks of those with power over you. Do not ask only, does it feel authentic? Ask whether it trains you toward care that feeling alone may not sustain. Do not ask only, can it be abused? Ask whether it can be made answerable to humanness. Some traditions deserve refusal. Some deserve repair. Some deserve a gentler form. Some deserve gratitude. Some deserve to be mourned as they pass away because they once carried something real but no longer can. The past is neither master nor trash. It is an inheritance under examination. Confucius does not free us from judgment. He makes the judgment more demanding. There is another reason the sheep matters. It keeps the discussion from becoming sentimental. The sheep is real. The expense is real. The inconvenience is real. Confucius is not allowed to float above the cost of ritual, and neither are we. If a form is kept, someone pays for it with time, money, labor, attention, or vulnerability. A living ritual must be honest about that cost. The people who love the ceremony must also notice the sheep. Imagine every shared form is treated as fake. No inherited greeting is trusted. No ceremony is taken seriously. No family role carries obligation. No public gesture means anything until each person privately approves it. No apology has a proper shape. No mourning practice gathers people. No title names a responsibility. Everything must be improvised. At first, that can sound free. No one is trapped by dead forms. No one has to perform reverence where reverence is absent. No one has to preserve customs whose meaning has decayed. The self can speak from its own feeling. Then the hard moments arrive. Someone dies, and no one knows how to gather. Someone harms another person, and apology becomes a negotiation over tone. Someone enters as a guest, and welcome depends on mood. A family role breaks, and there is no shared language for what was owed. A public office fails, and the title carries no shame. A conflict begins, and every person invents their own rules for speech, listening, and repair. When shared ritual disappears, relation does not become formless in a pure way. Other forms replace it. Some are legal, some are bureaucratic, some are algorithmic, some are commercial, some are driven by personal preference, some are enforced by social media etiquette, some are simply the habits of the strongest person in the room. Confucius helps us see that the alternative to ritual is not always sincerity. Sometimes it is law without shame. Sometimes it is impulse without restraint. Sometimes it is private feeling with no public accountability. Sometimes it is suspicion so constant that trust cannot settle anywhere. Analects 2.3 is useful here. Law and punishment can make people avoid penalties without developing moral shame. Virtue and ritual aim at formation. We should not read that as a rejection of law. Law is necessary, but law cannot do all the work of human relation. A society where people behave decently only because punishment is near is already poor in trust. You can see this in small life. If the only reason someone does not interrupt is fear of being called out, they have not learned respect. If the only reason someone apologizes is reputational damage, they have not learned remorse. If the only reason a leader fulfills a duty is legal exposure, the role has already weakened. Ritual, at its best, trains a person before enforcement arrives. Without that formation, we ask systems to carry more than systems can carry. We make policies for every courtesy, contracts for every trust, procedures for every repair. Some of that is necessary because people fail, but a life made entirely of enforcement becomes cold. People may comply while becoming less humane. Another replacement is personal preference. Each person decides what respect means to them. This sounds generous because it allows difference. But if there is no shared starting point at all, relation becomes exhausting. You must constantly interpret. Did they mean disrespect, or is that their style? Did silence mean care, avoidance, anger, or confusion? Did the absence of a condolence mean indifference, or did they reject that form? Did the apology repair anything, or was it only self-expression? Shared forms are imperfect because people are different. But no shared forms at all means every encounter begins with uncertainty. A third replacement is market convenience. If old rituals are slow, products and platforms offer faster substitutes. Send an automated greeting, click a sympathy reaction, use a template message, outsource memory to a notification. These tools can help, especially across distance, but they can also flatten relation. The gesture happens, but the person may barely be present. The form becomes easier and thinner at the same time. Confucius would ask about attention. Was the person present? Did the gesture train reverence or replace it with efficiency? Did the form make relation more human, or did it let the self avoid the labor of care? A fourth replacement is the performance of authenticity. Instead of ritualized respect, people perform being real. They speak harshly and call it honesty. They refuse inherited gestures and call it courage. They make discomfort into proof of truth. Sometimes this is necessary. False politeness deserves to be broken. But authenticity can become its own ritual, with its own expected gestures. Bluntness, refusal, exposure, casualness, contempt for form. That too can become fake. The point is not that shared ritual always wins. The point is that something will shape conduct. If we reject inherited Li, we should ask what Li has replaced it. What patterns now train our attention? What forms teach us to greet, mourn, apologize, thank, remember, restrain, and receive? Are those forms humane? Are they only convenient? Are they making us more trustworthy or more reactive? This question is especially important at night when the mind reviews the day. The day returns in small scenes, a conversation that may have gone cold, a message left unanswered, a family custom quietly avoided, an apology still waiting, a person who entered the room and did not feel received. These are not abstract ritual questions. They are the texture of a life. Confucius asks whether your repeated forms are training you. They are. The only question is toward what? If every difficult encounter is improvised, the self becomes the main instrument. But the self is tired, proud, afraid, distracted, wounded, and inconsistent. Ritual gives the self a discipline beyond mood. It says, even when you are tired, greet. Even when you are proud, apologize. Even when grief is clumsy, show up. Even when gratitude is late, give thanks. Even when power is yours, restrain yourself. Even when the person is familiar, receive them with care. Those forms can be abused. They can become dead. They can be demanded unjustly, but their absence has a cost too. The cost is not always dramatic. It may be a slow thinning of trust. People become less sure how to approach one another. The room becomes more casual and more lonely. The self becomes freer and more burdened because it must invent every moral shape alone. This is why the central question still matters. Ritual matters because the alternative is not a pure heart expressing itself without distortion. The alternative may be law, impulse, efficiency, suspicion, or private preference trying to do work that shared form once helped carry. Confucius does not ask us to keep every old ceremony. He asks us not to be naive about what replaces ceremony. If a form is empty, ask what emptied out of it. If a form is discarded, ask what will carry the humane work now. If the replacement is better, choose it. If it is thinner, notice the loss. A society cannot inspect every heart. A family cannot renegotiate every duty from nothing. A friendship cannot survive if every apology is invented from scratch. A grieving person should not have to create the grammar of mourning while grief is already breaking speech. Shared forms do not solve these things. They give human beings a place to begin. This is why tradition has to be approached with patience rather than appetite. Some people want the old form because it gives them power. Some want to destroy the old form because destruction feels like clarity. Neither impulse is enough. A serious inheritance has to be listened to, questioned, and sometimes refused. It has to be asked what it remembers, what it hides, what it trains, and who has had to carry its weight. Confucius is valuable here because he slows the hand before it either worships or throws away. By now, the easy answers should feel less satisfying. Ritual is not automatically real because it is old. Ritual is not automatically fake because it is learned. Sincerity is not pure simply because it begins inside. Form is not empty simply because it begins outside. Confucius asks us to think in the space between those shortcuts. The form that still breathes is animated by humanness. It carries Ren through Li. It gives care a shape, grief a path, gratitude a voice, responsibility a name, trust a repeated sign. It does not replace the heart. It trains the heart to arrive where another person can meet it. That is the best Confucian answer to the modern suspicion. The learned gesture may feel false because it is ahead of feeling, but ahead of feeling does not always mean against feeling. Sometimes the gesture is teaching feeling where to go. Sometimes the repeated form is the way sincerity becomes stable enough to be trusted. The apology before full softness, the condolence before speech feels natural. The greeting before affection is easy. The family name spoken with care even when the relation is mixed. The guest received properly even when you are tired. The old custom kept, repaired, or simplified because it still carries memory. These forms can train a person out of the rule of impulse, but the form must breathe. If it demands performance while killing truth, it is not alive. If it protects power from responsibility, it is not alive. If it silences the vulnerable, it is not alive. If it prizes display over sorrow, it is not alive. If it preserves memory by burdening the same person unfairly, it is not alive enough. If it keeps the name while abandoning the duty, the name has become false. This is why the question cannot be answered with obedience. Confucius is often read as a philosopher of order, and he is, but order, to matter morally, has to be more than arrangement. A room can be orderly and cruel. A ceremony can be orderly and hollow. A family can be orderly and afraid. A public role can be orderly and corrupt. The order Confucius seeks is one in which form draws people toward humane conduct. The modern skeptic is right to fear masks. The Confucian thinker is right to fear formlessness. Both fears are needed. Without suspicion, ritual becomes a hiding place for hypocrisy. Without ritual, sincerity may become a private claim that never learns how to live with others. So what does it mean for a form to breathe? It means the form remains answerable to the relation. A mourning rite must serve sorrow and remembrance. A family ritual must serve care and responsibility. A greeting must serve recognition. An apology must serve repair. A role must serve the duty named by the role. A public ceremony must serve trust, not image. A tradition must serve humane formation, not blind repetition. It also means the form can be corrected. A living ritual is not fragile in the way dead power is fragile. Dead power cannot tolerate questions because questions expose emptiness. A living form can be tested because its purpose is not self-protection. If the gesture has become too expensive, simplify it. If the custom burdens one person, share it. If the role is used one way, restore reciprocity. If the words have become hollow, recover presence or stop pretending. This is not relativism, it is responsibility. The form has a purpose, and that purpose judges it. Confucius gives us language for this purpose: humanness, ritual propriety, trust, reverence, role, name, harmony. Each word can be misused, each can also help us see something we might otherwise miss. Human beings do not become humane by feeling alone. They become humane through repeated acts in relation, corrected by the very people and forms that make relation visible. The hardest part is that we often want to know before acting whether the gesture is fully sincere. Confucius suggests that sometimes we only learn by entering the form. You may not know whether gratitude is present until you stop and give thanks. You may not know whether sorrow can be borne until you stand in the right. You may not know whether respect can return until you practice the careful speech that makes contempt pause. You may not know whether a tradition is alive until you ask what human good it still carries. This requires humility. The self is not always the best judge of its own sincerity. It may call laziness authenticity. It may call resentment honesty. It may call fear independence. It may call convenience clarity. Ritual, when alive, interrupts that self-certainty. It asks the person to submit, not to arbitrary power, but to a form of attention larger than mood, and yet humility is also required toward ritual. The form is not always wise. It may carry old injustice. It may flatter power. It may ask the wrong person to bear the cost. It may have lost the sorrow, reverence, trust, or care that once made it meaningful. Ritual must be judged too. That double humility is the honest middle. Do not worship the form, do not worship the feeling. Ask what kind of person and relation each one is forming. If a ritual helps you become more attentive, more restrained, more truthful, more capable of grief, more careful with names, more responsible in roles, more trustworthy in ordinary encounters, then it is doing real moral work. If it only teaches you to look proper while avoiding humanness, it has failed. If rejecting it makes you freer and more truthful, perhaps it needed to go. If rejecting it leaves only impulse, loneliness, or convenience, perhaps something needs to be rebuilt. The form that still breathes is not a perfect ceremony. It is a practiced shape through which humane life can continue. It may be a bow, it may be a meal, it may be an apology, it may be a name spoken with responsibility, it may be a place kept for memory, it may be the pause before speaking, it may be the way you receive someone at the door. Small gestures, heavy work. What replaces the old form may be better. It may be fairer, gentler, more truthful, and more able to include people the older custom wounded, but replacement is still formation. A new habit will teach the body where to look, the mouth how to speak, and the heart what to expect. So even refusal needs care. It should not only break the dead form, it should ask what living form can carry the humane work now. The form that still breathes will usually be modest. It will not need to announce itself. It may appear in the way someone waits for the slower person, or names the dead without rushing, or returns to the table after conflict, or uses a role as a responsibility rather than a shield. Confucius helps us notice those modest forms because he does not imagine moral life as a private mood. He sees the human being becoming human through repeated relation. The repetition matters because one good feeling is not yet a life. One sincere impulse is not yet trust. Trust asks for a pattern others can rely on. A breathing form also leaves room for truth. It does not require the grieving person to look composed. It does not require the harmed person to call silence respect. It does not require the younger person to praise a role that has betrayed them. If the form cannot bear truthful speech, it has become too brittle. Living ritual is disciplined, but it is not afraid of the humane reality it was made to serve. Return to the first uneasy moment. You do the right gesture and wonder whether it is honest. You say the words. You stand in the room. You use the name. You follow the custom. You feel the gap between the outer form and the inner state, and you do not want to lie. That suspicion is worth keeping. Confucius does not need us to become less honest about hollow ceremony. A ritual without humanness is empty. Mourning without sorrow fails. Reverence performed for status fails. A family role that demands respect while refusing responsibility fails. A public form that protects power from trust fails. But the suspicion is not the whole truth. The fact that a gesture is learned does not prove it is false. The fact that it is repeated does not prove it is dead. The fact that it arrives before feeling does not prove it is hypocrisy. Sometimes the form is what lets the feeling become steady enough to be lived. Confucius changes the question. Instead of asking only, is this ritual real or fake, ask what it is forming. Does it train care or only compliance? Does it carry sorrow or only display? Does it make responsibility visible or hide its absence? Does it restrain power or decorate it? Does it help sincerity become shareable or replace sincerity with performance? That is a calmer and harder judgment. You may still refuse some forms. You should. Some rituals deserve to end. Some roles have been used too cruelly. Some traditions ask for reverence they have not earned. But when a form is thrown away, the work it once carried does not disappear. Grief still needs a path. Gratitude still needs a voice. Apology still needs a shape. Names still need responsibility. Trust still needs repeated signs. The guest still arrives at the door. So the final answer is not obey ritual. It is not abandon ritual. It is this: human beings need forms, but forms must remain answerable to humane life. Sincerity needs shape, and shape needs sincerity. The next time a gesture feels false, do not dismiss the feeling. Look more carefully. Maybe the form is hollow. Maybe it is asking you to pretend. Maybe it protects something that should be challenged. Or maybe the gesture feels strange because it is carrying you toward a better self before that self feels natural. Maybe the words are old because the moment is older than you. Maybe the pause, the bow, the apology, the name, the meal, the condolence, the welcome are not there to replace the heart. Maybe they are there to teach the heart where to stand. This leaves the work unfinished in the right way. Tomorrow's gesture still has to be judged. The next apology, the next visit, the next old name, the next custom at the table, the next moment of grief will ask for attention again. Confucius does not remove that burden. He teaches us to carry it with more care, so that we neither hide inside form nor abandon the forms that help us become humane. That care is the beginning of honest human judgment. The form is not alive by itself, but sometimes, if humanness enters it, the form still breathes.